Russia and Turkey have been rivals in the last 500 years, and over these 5 centuries they fought 11 wars. In this video, I will shortly cover all these wars and keep a score of both sides' wins and losses, just for fun. Before we get to the video, please subscribe. It is very important for us that you subscribe, as it helps to boost our views and will allow us to monetize our content. Enjoy! The First Russo-Turkish War. The First Russo-Turkish War, or the Astrakhan campaign, was initiated by the Ottoman Empire due to the increasing power of the Russian Tsardom. Russians had conquered the Khanate of Astrakhan previously and cut off the pilgrim way from Central Asia to Mecca. Ottoman government also wanted to build a canal between rivers Don and Volga and connect the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea. This would allow the Ottomans to conduct naval operations against Safavid Persia and link up with their Uzbek allies to the east. The campaign was simply a disaster. Crimean Khanate, which was supposed to send 50,000 men to the army, refused to join. Crimean Khan Devleti was too afraid that an Ottoman victory in Astrakhan would result in Crimea losing its independence. Thus, the Ottoman army was left with only 20 to 30,000 troops out of the planned 60 to 80,000. 30,000 Ottoman workers sent to build the canal during harsh winter conditions were attacked and killed by a Russian army, or starved or froze to death. And finally, the Ottoman army besieging Astrakhan was surrounded by the Russians and almost completely annihilated. The Second Russo-Turkish War. In 1669, the hetman Petro Donashenko of the Cossacks became a vassal of the Ottoman Empire, and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was forced to accept Ottoman hegemony in Ukraine after the Polish-Ottoman War of 1672. This, however, upset Russia, as it also had ambitions over Ukraine. A Russian proxy, Ivan Samohilovich, declared himself the Ataman and attacked Ottoman-backed Petro Donashenko. Petro Donashenko quickly lost the support of Cossacks due to his pro-Turkish policies. However, Ottoman army managed to win a military victory and occupied the Cossack capital in Chehrin. The war ended as a draw in my opinion. Ottomans gained some territory but failed to install their candidate to the throne of the Cossack hetmanate. Third Russo-Turkish War. This war started due to the catastrophic Ottoman failure in Vienna in 1683. After its defeat, a great coalition formed against the Ottoman Empire that consisted of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, the Holy Roman Empire, and Republic of Venice. Seeing the consecutive Ottoman defeats, Russia joined the coalition and declared war. 2 major Russian attempts to seize Crimea were crushed by the Crimean Khan, Selim Giray. However, they succeeded in taking the strategic fortress of Azov. With this war, Russia was finally securing a foothold in the Black Sea. The Fourth Russo-Turkish War. This war started as a part of the Great Northern War. Swedish King Charles fled to Ottoman territory with his remaining soldiers after his disastrous defeat in Poltava. Russian Tsar Peter the Great demanded the Ottomans to evict the Swedish king, which was refused. As a result, Peter invaded Ottoman vassal Moldova. However, this campaign was a disaster, as the Russian Tsar ended up getting surrounded by a much larger Ottoman army. Instead of destroying the Russian army and capturing or killing its Tsar, Ottomans decided to sign a peace treaty. At the end, Ottomans regained Azov, which was lost in the previous war. The Fifth Russo-Turkish War. This war was started by Russia to regain the lost territory in the previous war and occupy Crimea. In 1735, Russians attacked and invaded Crimea. They even reached the Crimean capital in Bakhchisaray and burned down the Khan's palace. Russian forces also managed to capture Azov. On top of that, in 1737, Austria joined on the Russian side, which prevented an effective Ottoman defense against Russia. Despite this, the Russians failed to keep their advances. Russian army in Crimea was struck with disease and supply issues and had to leave the peninsula with thousands of losses. Meanwhile, the war proved to be disastrous for Austria, which had to sign a separate peace with the Turks and cede considerable territory, including Belgrade. Seeing that it was left without allies, Russia sued for peace. Overall, this war was a success for Russia as it managed to take Azov from the Ottoman Empire. The Sixth Russo-Turkish War. In 1768, Russian cavalry chasing Polish refugees across the Ottoman border razed the town of Balta and massacred its inhabitants. As a response to that and Russian occupation of Poland, Ottomans declared war. During this war, Ottoman military proved to be extremely incompetent. Ottomans were defeated in several battles in Moldova, although Crimeans managed to put up some resistance initially. After the death of Khan Kırımgiray of Crimea in 1769, that front also collapsed. On top of everything, the Russian Baltic fleet traveled all the way from the Baltic Sea and destroyed the Ottoman navy in Cheshme. This marked the end of the Ottoman naval superiority against Russia. At the end, the Ottoman Empire agreed to give Kerch to Russia and recognized the independence of Crimean Khanate, which so far was considered as a part of the Ottoman Empire. Seventh Russo-Turkish War. In 1784, Russian forces entered the now independent Khanate of Crimea and annexed it. Ottoman Empire protested the Russian invasion and demanded Russia to respect Crimea's independence. Russian Empire considered this as an act of war and launched an invasion. In 1788, Russia's hand was strengthened as Austria also joined the war against the Ottoman Empire, although once again, Austrian armies were defeated. Russians once again defeated Ottoman armies in several major battles and occupied Moldova as well as the Ottoman province of Yedisan. At the end, Russia and Ottoman Empire signed the Treaty of Yasi. Russians agreed to leave Moldova, however they were gaining Yedisan and Crimea, though the Ottoman Empire did not officially recognize the annexation of Crimea. The Eighth Russo-Turkish War. After his victory against the Russians in Austerlitz, Napoleon encouraged the Ottoman Empire to take action against Russia. Wanting to capitalize on the Napoleonic Wars, Sultan Selim deposed the pro-Russian princes of Wallachia and Moldova. Russian armies once again defeated Turkish forces and Ottomans were forced to leave the region of Bessarabia to Russia. Ninth Russo-Turkish War. In 1821, Greek War of Independence started. In the next 7 years, Greeks were largely successful and the great powers intervened to force the Ottomans to recognize Greek independence. This intervention culminated in the Battle of Navarino, where a united British, French and Russian fleet destroyed the Ottoman fleet. In response, Ottomans closed the straits to the Russians, which prompted Russia to go to war. Russians advanced into Bulgaria, occupying one major city after another, all the way to Edirne. Edirne itself was captured in 1829, and the Ottoman palace was destroyed. At the end, Russia gained control of Danubian Delta and parts of modern-day Georgia. The Crimean War. As the Russian Empire grew more and more powerful, British Empire increasingly felt the need to limit Russia's expansion. Meanwhile, the Russian Empire intended to finalize the matter of the Ottoman Empire for good. In 1853, Russian troops entered Wallachia and Moldova, and the Russian Navy destroyed the Ottoman Navy in Sinop. Britain and France intervened to defend the Ottoman Empire. Within 3 years, Russian armies were defeated in Romania and Crimea was occupied by the Allies. At the end, Russia agreed to return to pre-war borders. The 10th Russo-Turkish War. This war started as Russia declared war on the Ottoman Empire to help Serbia, which was losing a war against the Turks. Russian armies advanced into Romania, which also joined the war against the Ottoman Empire. Russians scored military victories in eastern Anatolia and the Balkans. Bulgaria was fully occupied, and Russians advanced all the way to San Stefano, which is only 20 kilometers away from Istanbul. However, the Russians were once again prevented from taking Istanbul by the British Empire. A British fleet anchored in Istanbul and forced Russia to sign peace. In the initial Treaty of San Stefano, Ottoman Empire agreed to give huge swathes of its territory to Bulgaria. This Bulgaria stretched from Romania to the Aegean Sea. However, this treaty was nullified by a European intervention, primarily led by Germany and Britain, as it gave Russia too much influence in the Balkans through a puppet Bulgaria. In the revised treaty signed in Berlin, the Bulgarian territory was shrunk by more than 50%, and the southern half was given to the autonomous region of Eastern Rumelia. Aside from that, Russia gained a large chunk of land in eastern Anatolia. Bosnia was granted autonomy and left to Austrian control. Southern half of Bulgaria was also granted autonomy, and Cyprus was leased to the British Empire. Ottomans also gave some concessions to Greece, Serbia, and Montenegro. The Great War. Ottomans joined the Great War in 1915 by bombarding the Russian ports in Black Sea with the goals of recovering lost territory in Anatolia. However, the war quickly went south for the Ottomans. Turkish armies were defeated in Caucasus with huge casualties, followed by Russian occupation of large chunks of Anatolia. However, in 1918, the Russian Empire collapsed and left the war with the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, and Ottomans managed to push all the way to Azerbaijan. However, I am not counting this as a win, as it only lasted for 6 months before Ottomans themselves surrendered to the Entente forces. This concludes the list of Russo-Turkish Wars. Russian and Turkish troops also fought on opposite sides in the Korean War, but Turkish participation there was not big enough to include it in the list. Likewise, Russia and Turkey have been fighting proxy wars in Syria and Libya, though these did not make into the list, for they aren't full-fledged wars. Overall, the score is heavily in favor of Russia, with 8 wins and 2 losses over 500 years of military contact. Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe and leave a like if you liked it, and we will see you in the next one.